Right now, somewhere in your home, there is a jar. Maybe it's on your dresser. Maybe it's buried in a kitchen drawer. Maybe it's that old coffee can in the closet you haven't touched in 3 years. And inside that jar is a mess of coins. Pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, all mixed together. Pocket change. The stuff you empty out at the end of the day because it's heavy and annoying. You've probably looked at that jar 100 times and thought, I should really take that to the bank someday. Or maybe, what is that, like $20? Not even worth the trip. Here's what I need you to understand. Some of you, not all of you, but some of you watching this video right now are sitting on a coin worth more than your car, more than a year's salary, in some cases, more than your house, and you have no idea. I'm John Rich, and today I'm going to walk you through 7 specific coins that look completely ordinary. 7 coins that cashiers handle every single day without a second glance. 7 coins that most people would call worthless pocket change. But these 7 coins, they're worth anywhere from $100 to over $1 million. And before you click away thinking, that's not me, I'd know if I had a rare coin, let me tell you something that might change your mind. In 2019, a woman in Massachusetts found a coin in her change jar that she'd been ignoring for over a decade. She almost rolled it up with a bunch of other pennies to deposit at the bank. At the last second, she noticed something looked slightly off. She took it to a coin dealer. That penny sold for $840,000. For a coin, she almost traded in for half a cent of bank credit. That's a documented auction result. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you exactly what to look for. Not vague descriptions, exact dates, exact mint marks, exact errors. By the end of this video, you'll be able to check your own change jar in under 10 minutes and know whether you're sitting on a fortune. Let's start with the most valuable coin you could realistically find in pocket change. But first, I need to change how you think about your spare change. Most people look at coins and see face value. A penny is worth 1 cent. A quarter is worth 25 cents. Simple math, right? Wrong. What you're actually holding is a manufactured object with a specific history. Every coin was struck at a particular mint in a particular year, using particular dies. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes, something goes wrong in that process. A die cracks. An image gets struck twice. These errors are rare. The US Mint produces billions of coins every year, and their quality control is genuinely excellent. Most errors get caught and destroyed before they ever leave the facility. But some slip through. And here's the thing about error coins. They're not valuable because of the metal. A 1943 copper penny contains less than 2 cents worth of copper. It's valuable because of scarcity. Because out of the billions of coins produced that year, only a handful of these errors exist. You're not looking for precious metal. You're looking for manufacturing mistakes that the mint didn't catch. The coins I'm about to show you share 3 characteristics. First, they look almost normal. You wouldn't notice them unless you knew what to look for. Second, they were actually released into circulation. These aren't proof coins locked in collectors' vaults. They've been passing through cash registers and change jars for decades. And third, they're still out there. People find these coins every single year. Not every day, but regularly enough that it's worth checking. Now, I need to be honest with you. The odds of finding any individual rare coin are low. I'm not going to pretend you're definitely going to find a $100,000 penny in your change jar. That would be dishonest. But here's the math that matters. If you never look, your odds are 0. If you spend 10 minutes checking, your odds become not 0. And for something that could change your life, 10 minutes seems like a reasonable investment. So let's get into the coins. If there's one coin that every collector dreams about finding, it's this one, the 1943 copper penny. Let me tell you why this coin exists, because the story matters. In 1943, the United States was in the middle of World War II. Copper was desperately needed for ammunition and military equipment. So the US Mint made a decision. For 1 year, pennies would be made from zinc-coated steel instead of copper. If you've ever seen a 1943 penny, you probably noticed it looks silver-colored. That's because it's steel. This was the only year in American history that pennies weren't made primarily from copper. Here's where it gets interesting. At the end of 1942, as the mint was finishing the last runs of copper pennies, some copper planchets, the blank discs that get stamped into coins, were still sitting in the hoppers. They got mixed in with the new steel planchets. Nobody caught it. Somewhere between 20 and 40 copper pennies were struck with the 1943 date and released into circulation. Those copper pennies are now worth between $100,000 and $1.7 million, depending on condition and which mint produced them. Let me repeat that. A penny worth up to $1.7 million. So how do you identify a real one? Here's what you need to know. Step 1 is the magnet test. Get a magnet, any magnet will do. The 1943 steel pennies are magnetic. If you put a magnet near them, they'll stick. A genuine 1943 copper penny is not magnetic. Copper doesn't react to magnets. So if you find a 1943 penny that doesn't stick to a magnet, You might have something special, but don't celebrate just yet. Step 2, watch out for fakes. When word got out about how valuable these coins are, people started creating fakes. The first common method is copper plating a steel penny. It looks copper colored, but it's still steel underneath. The magnet test will catch this. If it sticks to a magnet, it's not the real deal. The second method is trickier, altering a 1948 penny. Someone takes a 1948 copper penny and carefully files down the 8 to look like a 3. To catch this, you need to look at the 3 very carefully, preferably under magnification. On a genuine 1943 penny, the 3 has a very specific shape. On an altered 1948, you can usually see file marks or an unnatural curve where the 8 was modified. Step 3 is to check the mint mark. It appears below the date on the front of the coin. 1943. Copper pennies were struck at 3 mints. Philadelphia has no mint mark, and those are the rarest and most valuable. The Denver Mint has a D, and San Francisco has an S. So what do you do if you think you found one? First, do not clean it. Don't polish it. Don't rub it. Any cleaning will absolutely destroy the value. Put it in a soft holder and contact a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They will authenticate it and tell you exactly what you have. If it's real, you'll want to contact a major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers. These coins are still being found. Don Lutz Jr. found one in his school cafeteria change back in 1947. He held onto it for over 70 years, and after he passed away, it sold for $204,000. In 2010, a 1943D copper penny sold for $1.7 million. As recently as 2020, someone discovered one in an old collection they inherited. Is there one in your change jar? Probably not, but you won't know unless you check. So grab that jar and let's move on to coin number 2. Next up is a coin that is a bit easier to spot, but still worth a small fortune, the 1955 doubled die penny. I'm going to explain what a doubled die error is, because once you get it, you'll be able to spot these errors on all sorts of coins. So, when the US Mint makes a coin, they use a tool called a die. Think of it like a stamp. The die has the coin's design pressed into it, and when it strikes a blank metal disc, it transfers that design onto the coin. Simple enough, right? Well, sometimes, when they're making the die itself, the design gets stamped twice, just slightly offset from the first time. This creates a doubled image on the die. When that faulty die strikes a coin, you get a doubled die error. The letters look like they have shadows. The numbers look blurry. The effect is usually so clear you can see it with your naked eye. And the 1955 doubled die penny is the most dramatic, most famous example in all of American coin history. So why is this specific coin so valuable? Back in 1955, a die at the Philadelphia Mint developed this severe doubling. And I mean severe. The effect was so obvious you could see it from across the room. The words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" look dramatically doubled, with a clear separation between the two impressions. Now here's the crazy part. The Mint noticed the error. They knew they had a problem. But it was late in the production run, and instead of destroying the faulty coins, they decided to just release them into circulation. They let about 20 to 24,000 of these error pennies escape into the wild. 20,000 might sound like a lot, but think about it. Over the last 70 years, most of them were just spent like regular pennies, getting worn down and damaged. Many were probably lost forever. Today, experts estimate that only about 10 to 15,000 of them survive in a condition that collectors would want. And the value? A 1955 doubled die penny, even one that's been rattling around in circulation, can sell for $1,500 to $2,000. If you find one in a higher grade, you're suddenly looking at $10,000 to $25,000. And the absolute best mint condition examples? They've sold for over $100,000. So how do you spot one? This is actually one of the easiest rare coins to identify because the doubling is so obvious. First, look at the word Liberty. On a real double die, you'll see clear doubling on every single letter. Each letter will look like it has a shadow or a second impression just above it and to the left. Next, look at the motto, "In God We Trust." You'll see the exact same effect. The doubling is just unmistakable. Finally, check the date. The 1955 should also show some doubling, but it's always most visible on the words. But here's a super important warning, and this is where a lot of people get confused. There's something called machine doubling, or die deterioration, that can look a little similar, but is completely worthless. This happens when the coin shifts just a tiny bit during the strike, which creates a flat, shelf-like blur on the letters. A true doubled die shows rounded, distinct doubling. It looks like you're seeing double. Machine doubling, on the other hand, looks flat and mushy, almost like the letter melted a little bit. The difference is really obvious once you know what you're looking for. True doubled dies have depth and dimension to the second image. while machine doubling just looks flat and washed out. Now, what might surprise you is that these 1955 doubled die pennies are still occasionally found in circulation. It's true. Collectors have been hunting for them since the 1960s, so they've been picked over pretty heavily. But coins get lost in old collections, forgotten in jars, or stored away in boxes that sit untouched for decades. Just back in 2012, a guy found one in a roll of pennies he bought from a bank. It was worn from being spent, but it was still clearly the real deal. He sold it for $1,800. So whenever you're checking your change jar, any 1955 penny deserves a second look. If the doubling is there, you'll be able to see it. Now, if the 1955 is the famous doubled die, the 1969S is the holy grail. The 1969S double die penny is one of the most valuable coins you could realistically find in your change. We are talking $25,000 to $100,000, depending on its condition. Let me tell you why this coin is so incredibly special. It all comes down to rarity. In 1969, the San Francisco Mint produced billions of pennies, but within that massive production run, a very small number were struck with a severely doubled die, similar to the 1955 era, but even rarer. Here's the official story from the Mint. They claim they destroyed all of them. They say every single 1969S doubled die was caught and eliminated before it ever left the facility. Well, they're wrong, because over the decades, somewhere between 50 and 100 examples have surfaced. They exist. They are out there. And unlike the 1955 penny, where over 20,000 were released, we know of fewer than 100 of these 1969S coins. That extreme scarcity is what drives the price into the six-figure range. So how do you identify a 1969S doubled die? First, you have to check the mint mark. You need a 1969 penny with an S mint mark right below the date. If there's no mint mark for Philadelphia or a D for Denver, you don't have the right coin. Second, look closely at Liberty and In God We Trust. Just like the 1955 era, the doubling appears on these words. The effect is strong, and you should be able to see it with your naked eye. Third, examine the date itself. On a genuine 1969S double die, the number 9 shows very noticeable doubling. But here is the most important thing to understand about this coin. Because it's worth so much money, there are a lot of fakes out there. Some scammers create counterfeit double dies by taking a real 1969S penny and mechanically damaging it to try and simulate the doubling. Others will even alter the dates on different coins. So if you think you have a 1969S double die, do not sell it without getting it professionally authenticated. Period. Send it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC before you do anything else. The fee for that is usually between $50 and $100. If the coin turns out to be genuine, you're looking at a minimum of $25,000. That's a pretty good return on your investment. And these aren't just stories. In 2008, a collector bought a roll of pennies for 50 cents from his bank. Inside that roll was a 1969S double die penny in uncirculated condition. The coin was graded MS64 red by PCGS, which means it had its original mint luster with only minor imperfections. It sold at auction for $126,500. That's from a 50-cent roll of pennies. That's the power of knowing what to look for. All right, let's move on. Now we're getting into more recent territory and more realistic finds. The coins I just showed you are true rarities. Finding one would be life-changing for sure, but the odds are pretty long. The 2004 Wisconsin extra leaf quarter is different. This coin is common enough that people find them every single month, and it's valuable enough to be worth looking for, typically fetching between $100 and $500. So what happened in 2004? That year, the U.S. Mint released the Wisconsin State Quarter. The design shows a cow, a wheel of cheese, and an ear of corn, all classic Wisconsin stuff. But on some of these coins, something strange appeared on that ear of corn, an extra leaf. Normally, the corn has a specific number of leaves at its base, but on the error coins, an additional leaf appears. It either points upward, which is called the high leaf variety, or it points downward, which is the low leaf variety. The Mint has never officially explained how this happened. There are two main theories. Theory one is simple die damage. The die got damaged during production, creating a shape that just happens to look like an extra leaf. Theory two is a little more exciting. Intentional sabotage. Some coin experts believe a mint worker deliberately altered the die to create a new collectible variety. We'll probably never know the real truth. What we do know for sure is that these coins are real, they are legitimate mint products, and collectors are willing to pay a lot of money for them. So, how do you find one? Grab your 2004 Wisconsin quarters and flip them over to the back. Look at the ear of corn on the left side of the design. Right at the bottom of the corn, there's a husk with some leaves. For the high leaf variety, look just above the normal leaves. Do you see an extra leaf shape that points up toward the corn? If you do, you might have a high leaf. For the low leaf variety, look below the normal leaves. Is there an extra curved line pointing down? If so, you could have a low leaf. The high leaf is generally worth a little more than the low leaf, but both are definitely worth looking for. Let's talk about current market values. A high leaf found in circulation is worth about $50 to $150. A low leaf is about $50 to $100. If you find either one in perfect, uncirculated condition, the value jumps up to between $200 and $500. These aren't life-changing numbers, but that's real money for something you could easily find in your change jar or get back from a car wash. And this Wisconsin quarter proves a really important point. Valuable error coins are not just a thing of the past. The modern mint makes mistakes too. Sure, quality control has gotten a lot better over the years, but errors still happen. You should be checking all your state quarters, your modern pennies, and your newer nickels. The next major error coin could be sitting in your pocket right now. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into your pocket change to find some hidden treasures. Forget lottery tickets. These are 2 coins you could realistically find today, and they're worth way more than you think. Well, let's get started. First up is a coin that's valuable because of what it's missing. I'm talking about the 1982 no P or Roosevelt dime. This is a subtle error, but it could be worth anywhere from $50 to $300. And the best part? It's more common than you might realize. So let me give you a little background so this makes sense. Almost every US coin has a tiny letter on it called a mint mark, telling you where it was made. P is for Philadelphia, D for Denver, and S for San Francisco. For a long time, Philadelphia didn't use a mint mark. No mark meant it was from Philly. But in 1980, that changed. The US Mint decided all Philadelphia coins would get a P. Fast forward to 1982. All dimes made in Philadelphia that year were supposed to have a P on them. But someone at the mint made a mistake. They forgot to add the P mint mark to one of the coin dies. Before anyone caught the error, thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of these dimes without the P slipped into circulation. So, how do you find one? It's simple. You're looking for what's not there. Grab a 1982 dime and look at the front, right next to Roosevelt's neck. A normal dime from Philadelphia will have a small P. If your 1982 dime has no mint mark at all, no P, no D, no S, you've got one. Just make sure the spot isn't just worn down. The mint mark should be completely absent. Even in circulated condition, these dimes sell for around $50 to $75. In better uncirculated condition, they can fetch up to $300. Think about that. A 500 times return on a 10-cent coin. So why do so many people miss this? Honestly, it's because it's a dime. People don't really inspect their dimes. They're small, common, and just pass from hand to hand. Everyone's busy looking at quarters for special designs or at pennies for errors. Dimes, they just get ignored. That's why your chances of finding one are actually pretty good. All right, moving on to our second coin. Remember those super rare, life-changing double die pennies from 1955 and 1969? Well, think of the 1995 double die penny as their much more accessible cousin. This coin has dramatic doubling on the words liberty and in God we trust that you can often see with just your eyes. But because more of them are out there, the price is more down to earth, usually between $20 and $100. That's still a fantastic find for a penny. What makes this 1995 penny so cool is how strong the doubling is for a modern coin. If you look closely, the letters look almost 3D. You can see the first clear impression, and then a second one right next to it. This isn't just some random machine smudge, it's a genuine double die error, and that makes it very collectible. This error was found pretty quickly back in '95, but not before tens of thousands of them were already spent and mixed into everyday change. Many are still out there waiting to be discovered. So here's how to spot one. First, obviously, find pennies with the year 1995. Then, look at the word Liberty on the front. Do the letters look extra thick or like they have a shadow? Next, check In God We Trust, especially the word trust. The doubling should be visible there as well. If you think you have one, use a magnifying glass to confirm. True doubling looks rounded and separated, not flat and distorted. In average circulated condition, you're looking at about $20 to $40. For a brand new, shiny one, it could be over $100. If you're new to hunting for error coins, the 1995 double die is the perfect coin to start with. The doubling is obvious, finding one is a real possibility, and the value is high enough to make it exciting. It's great practice. If you can learn to spot this error, you'll be ready to find even bigger prizes down the road. So, start checking your change. You never know what treasures you might have. All right, let's talk about our seventh and final coin, which is honestly one of the most entertaining errors in modern coinage. This is the 2005 Kansas In God We Rust quarter. So, what happened here? The 2005 Kansas state quarter was supposed to say, In God We Trust, just like every other American coin. But some of them came out of the mint reading In God We Rust. How does something like this even happen? It's a type of error called a filled die, or grease strike. During the minting process, grease and other debris can build up in the recessed parts of the die. In this case, it collected right in the area that forms the letter T in the word trust. So, when the die struck the blank coin, that grease prevented the metal from fully forming the letter. The result? A coin where the T is weak, or sometimes completely missing. Trust literally became rust. As you can imagine, collectors absolutely loved this. The error became famous, it spread all over social media, and people started actively hunting for these coins and their change. So how do you spot one? It's simple. Grab any 2005 Kansas quarter and look closely at the motto, "In God We Trust." On a normal coin, every letter will be sharp and complete. But on the error coins, that T in trust will look weak, partially gone, or totally absent. The coin will essentially read, "In God We Rust." Now, there's a range to this error. Some coins have a faint T, while on others, it's gone completely. The more it looks like the word rust, the more valuable the coin is. A weak T might fetch you a $10 to $25. A clear rust reading could be worth $50 to $100. And a perfect uncirculated coin with a completely missing T can sell for over $100, sometimes even up to $200. The "In God We Rust" quarter is a great example, but it's not the only filled die error out there. This type of mistake happens more often than you'd think, across all kinds of coins. You should be on the lookout for missing letters or numbers, weak design elements, or parts of the image that look sort of melted or incomplete. These errors are common enough to find, interesting enough to collect, and definitely valuable enough to be worth your time. Okay, so I've thrown a lot of information at you. Let me give you a practical step-by-step action plan to actually find these treasures. Step 1. Gather your coins. Seriously, right now. Go find that change jar, the old coffee can full of coins, the change in your car's center console, the pile on your dresser. Get it all and bring it into one spot. Step 2. Sort by denomination. Make piles of pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. This makes the next steps way more efficient because you'll be looking for different things in each group. Step 3, check your pennies first. You're going to look for specific dates. Pull out any pennies dated 1943, 1955, 1969, 1972, and 1995. If you find a 1943 penny, the first thing you do is test it with a magnet. For the 1955, 1969S, and 1995 pennies, you'll want to examine them closely for any doubling on the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." Step 4, move on to the dimes. Here, the magic date is 1982. Look specifically at dimes from that year and check for the mint mark. Most will have a P for Philadelphia. If you find one with no mint mark at all, that's the one with potential value. Step 5, now for the quarters. Examine all of your 2004 Wisconsin quarters for that famous extra leaf error we talked about. Then, look at all your 2005 Kansas quarters for the "In God We Rust" error. And while you're at it, give all your state quarters a quick scan for any other major errors like die cracks, off-center strikes, or anything that just looks weird. Step 6, and this is the most important one. Set up a system for ongoing checking. Don't just do this once and then forget about it. From now on, every time you get change back from a store, take 30 seconds to look at it before you toss it in a jar. Train yourself to look at the dates first. See a 1943 penny? Check it. A 1982 dime? Check the mint mark. A 2004 Wisconsin quarter? You know to check the corn. Now, what tools do you need? You'll be happy to know you don't need a bunch of expensive equipment. A simple magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe is perfect. A 10x magnification is ideal, and you can get one for 10 or 20 bucks online. You'll need a magnet, which you can just borrow from your refrigerator, and you need good lighting. A simple desk lamp will work just fine. Finally, use your phone to search for reference images online. Seeing a picture of a genuine error makes it so much easier to know what you're looking for. So, what do you do if you think you found something? If you find a potential high-value coin, something that could be worth $500 or more, the first rule is do not clean it. Don't rub it, don't polish it, don't do anything to it. Also, don't just show it to random people who might not know how to handle it and could accidentally damage it. Place it carefully in a soft plastic coin flip or wrap it gently in some tissue paper to protect it. For a truly high-value find, you'll want to submit it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication. This will cost you somewhere between $30 and $100, but it's essential for proving the coin is real and establishing its market value. Once it's authenticated, you can contact a reputable auction house or coin dealer. Now, if you find a coin with more moderate value, say in the $20 to $200 range, you have more options. You can sell these directly on platforms like eBay or to local coin dealers. Authentication is less critical here, but is still a good idea for any coin you think is worth over $100. Let me leave you with this thought. I've shown you 7 specific coins today, 7 specific things to look for, 7 potential treasures that could be hiding in plain sight, right in your pocket. Will you find a 1943 copper penny? Probably not. The odds are incredibly long, I won't lie to you. But here is what I know for certain. People find valuable coins in their change every single year, every month, sometimes even every week. The only difference between the person who finds a valuable coin and the person who unknowingly spends it at a vending machine is simple: knowledge. And now you have that knowledge. The 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die, the 1969 S double die, the 2004 Wisconsin extra leaf quarter, the 1982 no P dime, the 1995 double die penny, and the 2005 Kansas In God We Rust quarter. 7 coins, 7 chances, 7 really good reasons to actually look at your change before you spend it. So go check your jar, go check your car. You might just be surprised by what you find. I'm John Rich. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you out, please subscribe to the channel. I release new content every week about coins, precious metals, and building wealth through knowledge. And drop a comment below if you've ever found a valuable coin in your change. I love hearing those stories, and I read every single one. I'll see you in the next video.